This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom really is brought to you by...
What the fuck?
What's up, dude?
One of my renters broke the toilet again. That dude takes giant shits. Now I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Why don't you hire a property management company or something to take care of that stuff?
Because they suck, and they take 10%.
You know, our dude Hank owns and manages Heritage Realty Partners. I think he said he only charges 5%, and he visits each property at least once a month.
That's right, he's always posting beers from the road. You have his number?
Actually, I do. His personal number is 805-451-5734.
Perfect. Now he can deal with my renter's big shits.
Heritage Realty Partners.
For all your property management and investment needs.
Bev's Video Kingdom is brought to you by Big Chief Chewing Tobacco. Are you tired of feeling good all the time? Tired of having loads of energy, plenty of pep in your step, and your dinner still in your belly? Well, folks, we have got something for you. Introducing Big Chief Chewing Tobacco, the guaranteed way to make you feel like total shit. That's right. Big Chief Chewing Tobacco is here to give you the authentic experience of misery and regret. You could also say goodbye to fresh breath, a healthy lifestyle, and clean clothes. Imagine the tingling sensation of tobacco juice saturating your gums, that burn that reminds you of all the bad choices you've made in life. Big Chief Chewing Tobacco takes you on a journey to the land of constant nausea and stained teeth. But wait, there's more. With Big Chief Chewing Tobacco, you'll enjoy the thrill of spending your hard-earned money on a product that's slowly killing you. So lace up your PF Flyers and run to the store now. You'll totally regret it. Big Chief Chewing Tobacco. The best.
As a person that loves tobacco a lot, chewing tobacco just makes me feel like dog shit.
A big wad of chaw just down there.
Yeah. Oh, we used to chew it all the time when we were working on the ranch. And
Dude.
every summer, one kid was guaranteed to puke.
It destroys me. It makes me feel terrible.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. It's Scott, Zach, and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing.
Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to Bev's Video Kingdom, and happy 4th of July to everyone out there. The weather is nice, and it's...
Is it?
Well, it is right now, and even though it's not technically 4th of July when we're recording this, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's hot today.
It's a great Independence Day.
Yes.
Let freedom ring.
Yep.
I like it.
Let the white dove
I like the
sing.
possibility that it's the coolest 4th of July on record. And there's
It would be nice. What's
wrong with you?
We've had a weird start to the summer. It's been amazing. Like usually by now we're at least hitting 100 a couple times. But yeah, we're here in the Bev's outdoor studio right now. I'm Scotch Beck, your host, and because of the holiday, we thought there's not much more American than baseball, and we thought about discussing the timeless classic
Baseball.
The Sandlot.
America, fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. And, there's some scenes in this movie that have to do with 4th of July, and we just thought it was a nice, appropriate subject to discuss today. So
It's actually
Why
one of the few.
not?
I mean, there's not a ton of 4th of July movies. I've looked for this before.
it's a good point.
Born on the 4th of July is not as happy.
That would be a little different mood.
Did Independence Day have anything to do with 4th of July?
Absolutely. You son of a bitch. He had that little twinkle in his eye, and I missed it,
did.
folks.
You saw the little smirk.
But yeah, because we were kicking that around a little bit. Like, hey, we just need to do something around the 4th, and didn't have a lot of options. And
So
but
there were three. You got the
as soon as I
best
brought
one.
this one, I brought this one up, and I'm like, we have to do that one. So
Yeah.
anyway,
This is the 101 for 4th
Makes
of July movies.
sense.
So-
Makes sense.
so to my left, I have Brad,
Hey, I am Brad.
and then to my right, I've got Nate.
I'm still Nate.
And then in and out of the show here and there, we're not exactly sure.
He's on the can right now.
Between potty breaks, we're gonna have our boy Zach. It just won't go. It won't.
Yeah.
Dysentery.
It came back.
Yeah. with
Whatever
the
it
vengeance.
was.
So he might be chiming in here and there. You might hear his voice pop up, and we're going to do our best to ignore him until then. So, whoa.
What happened there?
You know, yeah. Every once in a while, your laptop says, "Hey, you got a message, brother." Maybe that's because we have the video set up right now because we might have a special guest.
We have a very special guest.
Maybe you
I don't
should
know.
maybe you should mute the special guest portal.
Oh, I could do that. I definitely could do that. God, you'd think I'm a good producer after 100+ episodes.
Professional podcast.
So first of all, there's this big giant belt sitting in front of me. Can we talk about that?
Let's talk about the belt.
Oh, I love the belt.
Yeah, we've posted it on the socials. We announced it, and if anybody checked out the Deluxe Edition Awards show, the Denny's recently, it was announced that we are and are still, and for 365 days, as far as I'm concerned,
Hey, that's right.
the Deluxe Edition Network Podcast of the Year.
Wow, wow, wow.
And we have this lovely, amazing belt. Casey made this. He didn't make it.
Did you say he made it? I was
Yeah.
like, damn, Casey's legit, but I don't think he made it.
He's
He's in his leather shop. Just
a podcaster and he's also a beltsmith.
He's also the king of the Deluxe Edition Network. So
Yeah. So anyway, but he had this made, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's really legit leather, brass,
smells of
platinum.
smells of rich mahogany.
rich mahogany.
Yes.
for sure.
So anyway, we are we're still the champs.
And
Feels good.
we're taking turns wearing around town, and so it's just like, I mean, we just go into places, and we're just like, basically, just you can go into stores with this belt and just take things off the shelf and walk out, and they're
Yeah,
like,
I know what I'm saying.
I think that guy, he deserves that.
And the cool thing here is that the front of the belt is just big enough that I can just only wear the belt,
Yeah.
and I don't. And it's technically not public indecency.
Yeah.
Yeah, and any brewery you go into, it's free beers.
Free
for
beers,
life.
yeah.
I didn't realize that until I wore it. So
And if you see me, it'll only be around my thigh because that's the only thing that'll fit around. But
Scotch wears it as a choker.
Choker.
It kind of hangs down like a Public Enemy, Flavor Flav type thing.
Personally, I'm waiting for the rodeo circuit this year so that I can wear it with all my cowboy gear and be like,
Hell yeah!
"You think that's a belt buckle? This is the belt buckle."
In a weird Australian accent, and they're confused.
It's like Australian Forrest Gump. All right.
okay, thank you.
What is this Deluxe Edition Network you speak of?
Deluxe Edition Network is an amazing group of podcasts, various subjects, all kinds of different subjects, movies, pop culture, true crime, anything that you're interested in. You could probably find it on the Deluxe Edition, deluxeeditionnetwork.com. There's 2 pods of the month for July: In a Pickle, which is a sports radio type show, and Growing Up Bananas, which is an Australian show, with the first Australian show on the network.
I've listened to In a Pickle, and I will say, if you're into sports talk, they have that right vibe. It's just that right vibe. They're talking about some of the big stories of the day and things like that, and it's fun stuff.
Yeah,
I really
it's great.
enjoy it a lot.
It's really, really fun pod to listen to. And then Growing Up Bananas is about growing up Asian in Australia. So very, very interesting, cool angle on their show as well. So thank you so much to the Deluxe Edition Network. Thank you to everybody who voted for us for Podcast of the Year. We couldn't have done it without all of you out there. And
Hank and Keith and all the other.
Oh, yeah.
all the other 45 votes.
I've had a few different people like, oh yeah, I threw a vote. I'm
Yeah.
like, I think we got more than a vote, but I
Right.
appreciate y'all.
So,
and,
all right.
and like I said, we will be rocking that belt all across. It's kind of like the Stanley Cup. We're just kind of taking it around with us whenever we're going any type of shenanigans. It's going to be there.
And the last little piece of piece of news we're going to talk about is the upcoming Catalina wine mixer coming up in a month.
The fucking
Little-
Catalina wine mixer.
Check out our Facebook page and our Instagram. You'll find a post with a link,
Yeah.
and you can go buy tickets.
And hopefully tickets are still available.
Yeah, at this point, we don't know.
If they are not available now, you missed out. But please pick them up if they are available, because it's going to be a crazy time. We're going to be watching the movie Step Brothers, and we're going to have all sorts of fun planned. And it's going to be just a lot of drinks, a lot of silliness, and BVK is going to be right there with you the whole time. So
Awesome. Okay, let's get into it. The Sandlot, 1993, just classic movie. Budget of $7 million, box office $34 million. So it was successful, but definitely gained its traction later on in video sales and DVDs and stuff like that. I know that's when I saw it was definitely, on DVD.
And it's always so interesting to talk about that because it's just something that does not exist anymore. It's like,
Right.
I mean, yeah, it'll hit the theater and then it'll get maybe like a streaming boost, but that whole DVD rental and sales, like that, it's just a thing of the past. And it's so sad because a lot of movies that just right now they will appear out on some streaming service and they'll disappear forever.
Right.
But you don't think that has some equivalency? I mean, you don't think that it's possible that
Is there a movie that's come out that like on streaming that you missed and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about a little bit later? Like, I mean, can I think of it? I would love to think of an example.
I think there are examples, but I'm drawing a blank. Right. Let me think about it a little bit.
So the whole thing with when I was in college, I had a collection of DVDs in my dorm room, and it's like you have all these movies and then your buddies will say, "Hey, what's that movie?" And then next thing you know, it's like, hey, I got to have that movie too. And you got to have this in your collection. You have to have this movie in your collection. You have to have this and that.
And you give them, like, you'll take the DVD like your best friend and be like, here, watch this. And then like 6 years later, you get it back. He's like, I never watched it.
I know we've talked about this story before. And it's still, you know what? In your life, you make many a bad decision, and one of my bad decisions, Nate, I will say, it's one of the things I really, really feel bad about. There were times I would walk by and see that DVD and be like, I should just sit down and watch it right now. What am I doing? Why am I being stupid?
It's at least a small, like.
I thought about it multiple times. I would say at least probably once every 2 weeks.
It's a small penance that it weighed heavily on you and in your mind all those days.
I never doubted it was going to be a good movie. It was very difficult to sit down and watch it.
So something I was thinking about is, so with The Sandlot, I love it. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody who doesn't like this movie. And
you mean like who actively thinks it's bad?
Right.
There's people that haven't seen it and people that are kind of like, I liked it.
If people have seen it, it seems like everybody I've talked to about this movie has fond memories of it, or they'll say, "Oh, I love that movie," or
Scotch,
I remember
do you
this.
know me?
And so that's why I'm bringing this up, because I can't wait to hear what Brad says, because he's gonna be a douche. And so,
do you want to start with me?
Let's just start with Brad.
It's coming in hot.
So let's talk about Brad. So Brad's situation with The Sandlot.
I love your third person already.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing is that, and this is one of those ones where it's like, I don't remember when I saw it first.
Okay.
When I just watched it a few nights ago, it was the second time I've ever seen it.
Wow. Okay.
So I've seen it previously.
Uh-huh.
Do not remember a whole lot of it. I don't remember what age I was. I'm thinking like it might have been in college.
Right.
I watched it and I was like, how did I miss this? And being a college kid that was probably like half drunk at the time when I watched it or whatever else was going on, I just don't remember like necessarily enjoying it. I was just like, it's a movie, whatever. Here's the thing. Watched it a few nights ago with my kids.
Uh-huh. That's another question I had about this. So
watched it with my wife and kids, and I was so pleasantly surprised. There was so many little things about it that I was like, okay, I appreciate whatever it is I would missed whenever the first time I watched it was.
Right.
It all hit this time. And it was just a lot of different little comparisons to movies I'd seen previously. It was thinking about like the movies of that age and thinking about like the kid actors themselves. And while I didn't think it's like, oh my God, this is like the best movie ever.
Right.
I was like, I understand this movie. I understand why so many people love it. And I appreciate it a whole lot. Like I really, there's been a few movies that I've watched where it's like, I didn't see it when I was a kid. And then I watched it and I was like, this one I actually gained a lot of appreciation for. So Scotch, it's a happy ending for you.
I told you.
It's a happy ending because I really did.
Oh my gosh.
I was like happy I was watching it. And I was like, at the end, I was like, okay.
Yeah. And then now, how about
I understand.
How about your family? How about Melissa?
I'm sorry, my son didn't watch it. He was he was busy doing some other bullshit. He's about to be a senior and he's got a girlfriend.
Too cool for that.
Yeah. He's just doing all the high school shit. Okay. But my daughter and my wife and I watched it, and nobody was disappointed. Nobody was like unhappy that they watched it. I wouldn't say they thought it was the best movie ever, but they were like, oh, I get what it was trying to do, and they understood it, and they appreciated it. So that was it was all thumbs up across the board for the family here.
And I think the biggest thing for me, and we'll get to Nate here in a second, is just the whole boys hanging out and the memory of having a crew, and I think that's something that really speaks to boys watching this or young men. Like I think I watched it when I was in college. I was definitely in my 20s, I think, when I watched it the first time. But what's interesting is I've spoken to a lot of women who love this movie too. And there's not a lot of female characters other than the wife who, the mom doesn't have much of a role. And then Wendy Peppercorn for the most part. But why does it appeal to women as well?
Okay, do you know another movie that has basically zero female characters except for the mom, A Christmas Story?
Right.
And I feel like this is a Christmas story for baseball.
Yeah.
It's almost
It's not a bad. That's a good.
I think
really
it's
good call.
right in that exact lane of just like a little bit of looking back and reminiscing and nostalgia but also like wholesome, like just kind of like family fun, and it's doing that same thing that Christmas Story does. The narrator and everything,
absolutely,
like it follows a lot of kind of the same beats.
Yeah. Yeah,
and like segments, like none of the plot necessarily runs together.
I had this same,
and it's like little individual little stories.
It's almost like a serial, like almost like a series of like one act
episodes,
episodes, or I had that. I didn't make the comparison to the Christmas Story, but you really nailed it.
Perfect.
Like that is a really good parallel. So I'll go in reverse. So you talked about watching with the kids. Will, you remember when was it? Will, my son Will's hanging here in the outdoor studio with us. How old were you when we? Yeah, but you've seen it. I introduced you to. I probably showed Will around the time that the kids, similar age, right? Probably like 10 or 11. And I showed my daughter, who's a couple years older than that, than Will. And I just told her the other day, I was we're doing the Sandlot, and telling her about the setup of the show, and she was like, "Oh, I remember that one. I had the biggest crush on Benny and Wendy."
Right.
she's like, she covered it.
I love it.
She's like, yeah. So, but she really liked it and super fond of it. So I showed them. So I've seen this movie a bunch of times. I don't know that I don't think I saw it in the theaters. And I would have been about 2 years older than the characters when the movie came out.
Okay.
And I think I probably saw it on DVD at some point nearly after, but this would have been early high school for me. And I liked it from the first time. But I think I actually have liked, like, my affection for this movie grew over the first 3 or 4 times I saw it into a young adulthood. And then I think it's been, I've probably seen the movie all the way through probably 8 or 10 times. And so when I watched it this time, I would say my experience, it's just funny that some movies you see in, like, we've talked about this a lot on the pod, more often than not, movies that are this old, when you see them again now, you feel very differently about them. And I did not. Like, this is a movie that, like, my feelings about it have not changed very much. And I think not in a bad way. It's just that, like, you grow to a certain point, and what it is to you is stable. And so I really was asking myself, what is it that I think we love about this? Why is it so special? And I think as an adult, once you hit that point where you're really past the sort of, like, innocence of childhood, what it does is it helps us remember what it was like to be a kid, and have a sense that there are certain things that as a kid seem like they're such big deals,
right,
that aren't big deals when you're an adult. You look back and you sort of like there's a part of you, and sometimes the way that we even talk about it is to say, that's haha, those kids, they think that's such a big deal. But I think the flip side of that, and the like nostalgia of it, is we kind of long for that, right? Like, I long for a time when the biggest deal in the world is whether or not, like, I'm going to get to go play baseball with my friends. Like, that's the most important thing to do.
Right.
And, like, on the one hand, right, it's like the significance of that in your life at that time outproportions how important it is in the scale of one's whole life. But there's something special about a time when you're like, this is all I have to worry about. And if I get to do that, I'm a 10 out of 10, man. Like, I'm as happy as I could be, right? Because that's the only thing I have to worry about. And The Sandlot, to me, is like, it takes that very seriously in a way that, like, it puts you in those shoes in a way that is very, like, reminds you of that fondness, I guess, without, it doesn't patronize it. Yeah.
And so, and everything at that point is just the most important thing to them is just, the game is everything, and that whole world, it's all them. And it's like, it was interesting because I saw this article I wanted to bring up really quickly, and I was just Googling research for this, and it was from a website called scarymommy.com. And I was scrolling through and I saw it, and it's got.
Scotch, are you a Patreon of this site?
I am not a Patreon on the site, but it caught my eye because the headline was, "I loved The Sandlot when I was younger, but I watched it as an older person, and there's problems with it." And I was like, okay, great. I got to see what
and you probably, you can imagine where they're going, like thinking about what happens in the movie.
There's one major thing I'm sure we could all think about right now. But the one weird thing was she was talking about the toxic masculinity of Dennis Leary to the wife, and then also to Smalls. And one of her points was that here's a kid that loses the ball and is afraid to talk to his stepdad and afraid to talk to his mom, and he's so scared, and she'd hate it to think that her son wouldn't be able to talk to him about it.
That's real life shit.
And I was sitting here going, are you insane? Like, when you're a kid and you know that you just lost a priceless piece of history, you're going to do everything you can to fix it. And
dude, I went many a mile to try to avoid, like, I broke something at home, and like I will go as far as I can to make sure that I don't have to deal with that shit.
Yeah. It was the article blew my mind, and of course she got into the whole consent thing with Wendy Peppercorn and all that stuff, and I'm like, dude, he's a kid.
That's a toughie.
And maybe we'll get into that later. But anyway, it was so interesting. It's like, come on, man, I know you're trying to get your clicks and whatever, but is that a thing?
And it's like, what is it to say? Like, I mean, that movie came of its time. It's like that movie it didn't come out in 2023. It came out 1993.
I mean, I also think, and I guess the full disclosure here is like, my wife is she's a great parent for a lot of reasons, and one of the reasons she's a really great parent is she spends a fair amount of time like reading about the way people are talking about and thinking about parenting right now, right? Like the sort of like gathering a lot of information and talking about them. And I think there is the side of that would be on this article sort of talking about the sort of like consequences thing would be basically to say some version of, you want to sort of create this routine with your kid or this like context in which like there might be boundaries and consequences, and you would set those boundaries and have all your own shit figured out, and you would never get really upset. You would just set the boundary, and then there would be sort of consequences and so on. And I don't even think that's wrong per se, right? Mm-hmm. But 2 points. One, show me the parent that does this perfectly, and I'll gladly sign over all my children to them. Like that, just like there's no like that's not a real word. No one thinks it's a real. Nobody that advocates this stuff for real thinks that anybody does this. But you get irritated. Like as a parent, you just get pissed about things. Doesn't mean you beat your kids or like verbally abuse them. You just sometimes are like, you shouldn't have broken this. That was a bad choice, and I'm really mad right now. Like, and two, like, even if you're setting up boundaries, right? Like, hey, don't take priceless baseballs and hit them over a fence. You know what I mean? Like, like that's a boundary. If you do that, you're going to end up having to do extra chores.
Right.
The kid might be like, I don't like extra chores, and I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So the whole idea that somehow the evidence that the kid really doesn't want to tell them that he did something that is clearly out of bounds, right? Like they tell him all the time, don't go in the office.
Yeah. Hey, I
maybe
feel
so
like
you don't steal priceless baseballs.
I feel like I raised my daughter pretty well, but when it comes to some certain things, like I feel like she will lie like as hard as she can.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm trying to avoid things. Like,
when you're
that's
a kid,
just human nature. It's just human nature.
I was going to say, when you're a kid, you just don't want to get as an adult. I don't want to get in trouble either.
Like, I mean, I hope we evolve to a point where we're all like, just like these perfect beings who just float around and like everyone is all honest and like accepting.
I'm already there, buddy.
But you know what? Like, I'll be dead by then. So welcome. Okay.
All right.
I want to say real quick about the movie. Like, is playing? I mean, we just talked about it. It's very episodic, and it's like, is playing the real team. It was one of my least favorite parts of the movie. It was just
I disagree.
It was just. Disagree. I mean, okay. There's the big shit talk. There's the shit talk back and forth. That scene's great, except for the fact that. Hey, why these? And again, this is so typical me. You guys know me.
Wait, are you about to tell me a point that you got really fixated on and just couldn't let go of?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, please. Please continue.
The fact that they're all in their uniforms and they show up at the field and there's the shit talking and they're going to play the next day, and then the kids are like all back in their uniforms. It's like, do these kids just wear the uniforms everywhere they go? Like, what's going on here?
Have you met middle school kids?
They wear
uniforms everywhere.
Really?
They wear their hat. Those baseball kids wear their hats
and they just
their sunglasses.
smoked them. I was like, it was like it wasn't even a game. Like, could we at least make the game like competitive? Like, why didn't we have any type of plot unless we have like an unreliable narrator?
I think this is exactly why I love it. Because you're left to question for a significant portion of the movie, like, are these kids just a bunch of scrubs? You actually don't see them doing. You don't have any good like barometer for how good of baseball players they are,
right? Because they're just scrimmaging and
so you're like, are these guys just like the garbage kids in town that like aren't really that good, and Benny's pretty good? So for me, the whole thing is only about showing you that like these guys are sticks. Like they can absolutely crush the ball. They are good fielders for their age, and I'm like, I have no reason to doubt this because I don't know how good people.
One of their outfielders barely learned to catch a ball, and he's playing center field, I think.
He's a natural talent, and you should shut your filthy mouth about Smalls. Speaking of which, is it time?
So let's move on because we have a very, very special guest. We have.
Do we?
Oh, we do. Why are you looking at me like
Did
that?
I hear this? Do I know this? Special announcement?
You do know this? We have Smalls himself, Tom Guiry, coming on to join us in the next segment on the Drinking with the Director.
Oh, shit.
We're drinking with the lead actor of The Sandlot. So we're very excited. And so join us in a minute.
Pull up a chair and grab yourself a drink. We'll hypothesize what directors think. Maybe sometimes get a guess. Makes us look good. Let's drink, laugh, and pretend we know what we're doing. Drinking with the Director, brought to you by Last Call Brewing.
All right, here we are. Very excited this week. Usually we have to ask hypothetical questions to people that aren't here. But this week, we have a very special guest. We have the lead actor from The Sandlot, Tom Guiry, is here with us today.
What's up, Tom?
Hey, how are ya?
Nice.
How's it going?
Dude, it's going great.
My pleasure to be here.
Dude, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really, really appreciate it.
So,
no problem.
So he's jumping in with us here in the Drinking with the Director section. So you got anything special you're drinking over there, Tom?
I got a iced tea.
Hey, are you a sweet tea guy or like a straight?
I'm an unsweetened with a Georgia peach mix on it. So it's like half unsweetened. Yeah,
because you moved.
Yeah, it's not bad.
You moved to the South not too long ago, and have they not? Isn't sweet tea like a requirement of the South?
It is, and I gotta say it packs a little too much of a punch there. It's a little too sweet.
Too much.
So I gotta diet. Yeah, too much. I split it up a little.
I love it.
All right.
How about you, Nate? What are you sipping on today?
I've got Diet Pepsi, and can you guess what might be in it?
I have a feeling it might be.
It looks a little red.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's
Yeah,
the
the gold
gold. It's the juice of the gods, grenadine.
Love it.
All right.
I'm being boring today too.
Nice.
I got a little Coke Zero going. I'm trying to be healthy lately. I just had my birthday last weekend. I ate and drank everything in sight, and I got to get back serious. So
We celebrated hard though. It was good times.
it was fun. It was fun.
You're 55 now?
70.
Oh, you sons of bitches! I hate.
Oh, no. It wasn't 70 because it wasn't that big of a party. It was like 68, right?
you. Right.
All right, brother.
All right.
Brad, what do you got over there, buddy?
Our sponsors. I just stopped by the tap room, and I will say, folks, if you are in Oakdale right now, they just released a bunch of stuff on tap. They've got a bunch of cans out now, and my favorite summer drinker, the Flip Flop Tank Top Tropical Ale, is available right now in cans and on draft. And I'm telling you, folks, it's got like a little guava sea salt, but just a nice little summer drinker. I suggest all of you go right now and pick up like 3 cases each. So just do that.
I love it.
Please.
And Zach just walked in, and he hasn't joined us quite yet, and he pulled something out of the tap, and he's making a face that doesn't look very encouraging.
He's drinking Modelo.
Delicious Modelo.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Modelo.
The face does not say it's delicious
I
Modelo.
think his face was putting him on the spot.
The problem was it was all foam.
All right. So, Tom, we're talking the Sandlot today, but before in which you played Scotty Smalls, which many people will remember as just Smalls, right? There's a lot of last names.
That's right.
Yeah. But we know you from a bunch of other stuff, right? Back when you were, in that same era from Lassie, but more recently, sort of as you went along from Blackhawk Down and from a number of other television series. So you'll have seen Tom, if you're a TV or film watcher, you'll have caught him a bunch of times since the Sandlot. But today we're talking about that. And the first question I wanted to ask with such a role like this is, so you're the star of what is, we kind of sometimes we think about movies and like how to categorize them, and we have this category we think of as like iconic films, right? Like there's no clear definition, but it's something that kind of like is larger than life. It gets outside of its era, and for us, the Sandlot fits this. So you're the star of this movie early in your career. That's an iconic film. Like, what's your relationship to the movie now? In the sense that, on the one hand, right, like you're forever sort of like because it's such a big movie and because you're such a your role is so important in the film. It's such a great performance. You are Smalls versus sort of wanting to sort of be known for your body of work. Like, is there any tension there? How does it feel to navigate that?
Well, yeah, truthfully, it's funny because I remember it was really important. Well, it wasn't really important for me, but I had an agent for a really long time, and I got her, and then I got Sandlot, and she was great. She was almost like an aunt to me, growing up. But she'd always want me to get more adult work, she would say, but I'd still be a kid, but she wanted me to kind of get away from the whole Sandlot thing. So I think part of me when I was a kid, I kind of, I wouldn't say looked down upon it, but I was always worried that people wouldn't take me seriously as an adult actor, or as I started getting older. So I didn't really embrace Sandlot. It wasn't until probably around the 25th anniversary when I really started to appreciate it, and I kind of wish I appreciated it from the start, because really I didn't become that famous as a child actor, which was a good thing, because I think if you get too much fame as a child actor, it's harder to make a transition into an adult actor.
Right.
But I used to have a little bit, when I was a little younger, I used to kind of shy away from it, but now I love it. I think it's, because I really enjoy the movie. I thought it's a good flick.
That's awesome. Yeah, you mentioned the 25th anniversary, and so I saw that it was at Dodger Stadium, and they got pretty much most of the cast together. Like, didn't they have almost all the guys there for that?
Yeah, I remember that. That was a lot of fun. That was everybody except Benny, Mike Vitar.
Okay,
he just doesn't feel like doing it. He doesn't like to do the signings or anything like that. So,
right.
But he's working as a firefighter.
Yeah.
in LA. So
okay,
he's just real busy, and he's not for it. But
how was that experience as far as like walking into Dodger Stadium and getting announced, and was that just pretty a surreal thing? Like, are you a baseball fan in general? Was that cool for you, or are you like, whatever?
Yeah, I love baseball. I mean, so it was really, really cool. I thought when they first told us about it, I was like, we'll go out for a little bit. And, I didn't think it was going to be as big, and I didn't think the crowd and everybody was going to be.
They went nuts for you. I watched the video, man. They went wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was great. It wasn't what I expected, like a little tiny thing. I didn't know it was going to be, it was huge. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Did it surprise you at all? I mean, kind of, talking about shying away from it in your younger years, did it surprise you? Did you get a sense, a renewed sense of just how big an impact the movie had?
Yeah, I did, because, when the movie came out, it wasn't like a big hit, so it got, especially with DVDs over the years, like Blockbuster and all that stuff, and they kind of grew a following over the years, and so it really wasn't until I started seeing people, like, I was walking down the mall, and I saw a guy wearing a "You're Killing Me" small shirt. It was like one of the first times I saw that, and that's when it kind of hit me. But it really hit me on the 25th with the Dodgers. I was like, wow, because when you see that many people and they're there and they actually appreciate, they're actually screaming for the movie, it's like, oh shit, people really did dig this movie. So it was crazy.
That's awesome.
Now, did producers or anybody associated with the movie, like at the time, I mean, you guys are young kids. It's like, did they say, "Hey, your life's going to change"? Did they try to like have talks with you? You said that some people kind of try to protect you a little bit as being younger actors, but like, was there anybody that was like kind of like, "Oh my God, your life's going to be changed. You don't understand. It's going to be so different." Like, how was it on the set as far as like once the movie started to kind of get out there?
Well, no, because nobody really said that because nobody really thought the movie was going to do as well as it did. I think everybody thought it would do okay, but I don't think anybody expected, like we would have a reunion 25 years later or 30 years later. I mean, so it did a lot better, I think, than people expected. Kind of grew a life of its own after time went by.
Right.
So when you were when you were trying, auditioning for the movie, were you already a baseball player? Did you play Little League at the time?
Yeah, I played on Coleman's Hamilton Supply team. When I moved to Jersey, me and my brother played Little League. Yeah, so it was fun. I was a pitcher.
Were you
a pitcher and shortstop?
Were you a stud? Were you a stud? Like you were a pretty good player by then?
I was a mediocre player. I enjoyed playing, but I wasn't great at one thing. I mean, I was okay at pretty much everything. I just enjoyed playing. My brother was really good. My brother was a great hitter. He would always hit the ball out. But I could get on base. And I could throw, but I wasn't anything too special.
How hard was it to act like you couldn't throw? Was that weird, or was
it was an ordeal, man? I was like, oh, I'll just make it. But the director, it's one thing because Dave Mickey Evans, who wrote and directed the movie, awesome dude. I still talk to him. He's a great guy. But when you work with a guy who, especially guys that wrote and directed the movie, they have such a clear vision of what they want. So it can sometimes be a little tricky to get them to be happy with stuff because some people when they have a vision. They want you to do exactly what they're saying in your head.
Right.
So he'd be like, come here, Tom, come here. All right, you're gonna have to go like this. So I just started mimicking exactly what he was doing. Okay. Because when he would show me, and I did it exactly the way he did it, and it finally worked out. But he was like, now it looks like you're forcing it. I'm like, okay.
You're like, I know how to throw a ball. Like, come on now, this is difficult.
Yes. So we got it. It took a little while, but we finally got it down. I remember I was taking classes on it how to look like I don't throw.
So we were talking a little bit before we jumped on, about where you lived. You had moved from New Jersey to down to South Carolina, and one of the things that we find talking to friends of ours who are in the industry and talking to guests we've had is that you have people that think of actors as being even really successful actors like you who found fame are also sort of just live rich and glamorous lives that are just fundamentally different than the way most people live. And I think most of the people that we've talked to sort of they counter that and say that's just that's not the way it is for 99% of people that are actors and that are in the business. So, you talked about moving, living in New Jersey, being proximate to New York City to do auditions, and moving down to South Carolina. So what's your take on that? Right? Do you feel like you live a life that's sort of different than everyone else, or is it like you have a job and you're an actor and that's sort of like just your job, like everybody else's job?
I feel like it's a job just like everyone else's job. It's one of those. It's a job that's this is funny. I did. I was doing a film, Mystic River, and I'm going to name drop right now. But I'm sitting with
that's one of our favorite pastimes here on Bev's Video King.
So I'm just kind of a fly on the wall because it was Kevin Bacon and Lawrence Fishburne. They were sitting in front of me, in their chairs, and it was the last day of filming, and I'm just listening to I'm eavesdropping on the conversation, and Kevin looks over to Lawrence. He goes, "You doing anything after this?" And he goes, "Well, I got the Matrix thing. You guys, he had to finish one of the Matrix movies or something he was doing." And Kevin was like, lucky. And he goes, "Why? What are you?" And Lawrence is like, "What are you doing?" He's like back on the unemployment line. And you can tell he was worried about it because he didn't know what he was going to do next. Wow. And to me, it made me feel good because I was like, all right, well, this guy's worried about when he's going to work again, and he's freaking Kevin Bacon. Yeah. Well, maybe it's maybe everybody has that. Everybody has these thoughts, and everyone's worried. When you're an actor, you're always worried when you're going to get your next job, you know? So when I can see it's like we're all the same, even if you're, you know, famous and you got some money or whatever, you're always going to be worried as an actor. Well, there's no peace of mind being an actor.
No
You're
job,
always worried
no job
when-
security.
Yeah, I feel like that's even more anxiety ridden than someone with a regular job, right? Because at least your regular job, you know, is going to be there day in and day out.
Right.
As an actor, you're like,
Yeah.
maybe I won't have anywhere to go tomorrow.
Yeah, man, and every job I ever got, I have to audition for.
Yeah.
And that's like the worst thing. I mean, nobody likes job interviews. You know what I mean? So
All you do is interview.
being an actor is constant job interviews,
Yeah.
man. But it's a job like anybody, like, you know, anybody else. I mean, if you're gonna stick with it,
Yeah.
it's a weird job. But you know, to me, it's just, and even like with my kids, it's like like some people, they're like, oh, you know, they have questions because they don't know about it or whatever. And my kid's like, no, it's just boring. It's just, you know, we're like, it's a movie I'm in. My kid's like, it's just a daddy movie. You know?
It's just a daddy movie. So somebody turn on Bluey here again. Somebody got a daddy movie on again. How old are your kids? How old are your kids, Tom?
Well, my oldest is going to be 24.
Oh, okay.
He's in upstate New York. Yeah, I was 18 when he was born.
Okay.
And then, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and my other son is 12.
Okay, so you got a good range. Yeah, so 10 and 12. I mean, this is kind of wheelhouse Sandlot era. Have they seen it?
Yeah, I did really with all my kids. I never told them, you know, I was an actor or anything. And they must have been like around 5 years old. And I did the same thing for all of them. I even videotaped. I'll put the movie on. I put Sandlot on, and I'll put them on the couch, and then you know they'll watch it, and then by like the middle of the movie, they'll start looking at the screen. Their head starts tilting, and then they start looking at me. And they look at the screen, and you can see the wheels going in their head. You know, like I'm like, yeah, that's me, and it freaks them out. At least when they're little, you know. They're like they don't really quite get it. It's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Does your wife or kids or any of your family just drop like a "You're killing me, Smalls" or "You're killing me, Tom"? Just to fuck with you.
Yeah, dude. I got my one son. I remember I went up. It was my middle guy, Jameson. This was just like a few years ago, and he had to get up for school, and I told him to turn off the TV in his room. And then I could hear the TV still. So I go upstairs. I'm like, what the hell, dude? I go, turn off this TV. And I shut it off. I go to bed. And I walk down the stairs. Halfway down the stairs, I hear, you're killing me, son. You little bastard.
That's legit.
There's nothing you can really do to that. Just you gotta take it.
No. I was like, I get on, I go back in my room. And I'm like, what you said to me? My wife's like, what? I was like, you're killing me, Small. She's like, oh, the ball's on him.
Yeah, you can't escape it. No, I was literally the other day. I was telling somebody that isn't a big movie fan. I forget exactly who it was. I was saying, you know, we're super psyched. We're gonna have Tom Guiry on, who played, you know, Smalls and Sandlot, and they're kind of like, oh no, I haven't seen that, you know. And I'm like, oh, you know, come on, you know, like you're killing me, Smalls. And she looked at me and she's like, oh, that's where that's from? I say that all the time.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no,
it's in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, "Killing Me, Smalls" has transcended like all culture. It's like it's the
sure.
thing. Yeah, so I guess it must feel like equal parts irritating and special to be like, yeah, I'm the
That's
"Killing
me.
Me, Smalls," and
Yeah.
I hate it and love it when people say it to me.
Tom, I gotta ask you real quick. How many people have ever, like, once they kind of like figure out who you are, have like pitched you like, oh, dude, I've got the best idea. I know there's been a Sandlot 2, and I know some of them you weren't involved with, but it's like, how many people have pitched you like, oh, come on, we got to do a sequel, and I got the best like idea and plot? Like, how often does that happen?
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot of crazy Sandlot ideas, Sandlot spinoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are like, let's do a Squints Wendy Peppercorn series with their 9 kids. I was like, dude, that would actually probably be pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
I would watch that. I mean,
I mean, nine kids, 9 players on the baseball field. It makes sense.
The real life with the Palladorises. You know, just
yeah.
faux reality show.
That would be hysterical. The people got some crazy ideas, man. That would be cool, man. I'm all for them.
All right. Well, we've taken as much time as we can, except Tom, tell us what you're up to right now. Where might we find you in recent or in the near future stuff, and what are you working on now that you're excited about?
Well, right now I'm just doing like my whole summer right now is filled up with just doing like stuff for the 30th anniversary.
Okay.
I did a film when COVID hit, and it was called Unforgivable. It was a Sandra Bullock film for Netflix.
Yeah.
And I actually came down with Bell's palsy when I was doing that film. Yeah, and it's just my face still hasn't healed, so it's going to be 3 years in August. So.
Oh wow.
They said it could take up to 5 years for this thing to get better. So it's kind of hard for me to work right now until this gets a little better. So
yeah,
we're just waiting as of right now, just waiting to heal, and maybe something down the pipeline in the future, something will pop up.
Anything for the special for the 30th anniversary that you can tell us about coming?
Yeah, I think we're going to be hitting Pittsburgh sometime for the Pirates game.
Oh,
and we might be doing the
stadium.
Nationals. Yeah, I haven't been, so I was real excited about that one. And just going to some different going to the Cooperstown in July, which will be cool. And that's about it. Yeah, and maybe something at the Louisville Slugger Museum, in Kentucky. Cool, yeah.
Awesome.
Man, that's exciting and definitely worthy of the praise. We're huge fans of the movie and huge fans of Smalls. So can't tell you enough how much we appreciate having you on and talking to you a little bit.
And Tom, if you fish, this guy Nate, man, he's in South Carolina all the time. And
that's right. Yeah,
he'll take you fishing, man. You'll catch some fish for sure.
yeah.
I'll bring my trout cap, man.
Oh, that's right.
That's
the long bill.
I hope you're serious, buddy.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, hey, Tom, thank you very much, and we will we'll definitely keep an eye out for the 30th anniversary activities, and we'll promote them here when we hear about them.
Oh, so awesome, man! It was great talking with you guys.
Oh, wow, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, have a good one, guys.
All right.
Take care, man.
Bye.
Bye.
Join hosts Dave Houghton and Sarah Ray Talley as they examine the less glamorous side of sports with their podcast, In a Pickle. Follow IAP Radio on social media by going to IAPradio.com. In a Pickle is now part of the Den Network. For more information, go to IAPradio.com.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's Shag Snack Body Bag.
Oh, man. What a great segment. A great conversation with Tom Guiry. It's so cool of him to join us. We were drinking with him, and we decided we're going to keep drinking a little bit, and we brought in another friend of the show. He's been on a few times, and Cliff Chamberlain. He's a big fan of this movie, and he decided to join us again for some Shag Snag Body Bag. How you doing, bud?
Cheers, fellas! Thanks
What's
for
up,
having
Cliffy?
me.
Yeah,
Yep.
man. Yeah. You're getting in late to the party. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Space Dragon.
Oh,
look at that
AZ
can,
dude. That's crazy.
IPA. Look at that.
That's like a Space Invaders looking
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it.
who makes that? Who makes that one?
Proudly brewed by City Barrel Brewing Company, Kansas City, Missouri. My family and I visited some friends of ours, the Wills in Kansas City, and they bought me this. They said, "What do you like to drink?" I said, "A hazy IPA."
Oh,
Okay.
well, hazies are the beer. That's the beer of the kingdom here.
It is. That's in the BVK.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. The Sandlot. Is this a movie that holds a special place in your heart? What are your overall thoughts on The Sandlot?
It is. I love this movie. I think when Nate sent me a list of movies that I might be able to come and talk on, I sort of instantly was like, The Sandlot. Let me talk about The Sandlot with people who want to talk about The Sandlot. Because I remember 1993, right? This came out. I'm pretty sure that puts me in 8th grade, right? Were you guys in 8th? Was it 8th grade?
8th grade.
Yep. That was our graduation
I saw
date.
this movie. I saw this in the theaters with guys from my elementary school, and I say guys, they were friends at the time, but they were definitely like much cooler than I was, right? So in a lot of ways, I was probably like the Smalls, like I sort of felt like Smalls among that group. I was always a little bit of a like lucky to be there kind of thing. But I remember seeing the movie and they were like instantly making fun of it as we were watching it. And I was watching it like, this is the greatest movie of all time. And I'm pretty sure we left like mid-movie because they were like, wow, let's get out of here. And I remember being crushed that we were leaving. And I think I got myself back to see it either a few days later or wound up seeing it later. But I knew in the moment how much I loved it. And anyways, I loved the movie when I saw it. And I remember thinking like, oh, I'm in a different lane than all these other cool guys who are not finding the absolute joy.
Right.
I knew that movie was nostalgic for my own childhood while I was watching it as a child. You know what I mean? It's
awesome.
Dripping with that much nostalgia. It's like, oh, I will remember this when I'm 43. This is how, like, all those feelings. I knew it in the moment. This will be a classic for me, even if it's like a cult movie for other people. Like those guys don't see it. I'm all over this type of movie, and I love it to this day. It totally holds up. You watch it as an adult, you might be like, oh, as a kid, that is my absolute dream to have like the lifeguard fall in love with me. As an adult, you're like, oh, that scene might be a little bit whatever, problematic, 2023. But they're a bunch of sweet. You can tell there's sweet kids who are just trying to find their way, and they're not cool. Right. You know what I mean? They're just trying to find their way, and so there's something about that is I don't know. There's a real kindness to this movie, to the kids in this movie, to that team together that I find. I love still to this day.
A little earlier, we talked about, and I kind of just referenced the point that I wasn't really, this was not a big part of my childhood. And it was like my family didn't watch or anything like that. And so I ended up catching it later. And in fact, just maybe a few days ago, and really like getting to kind of know it. And it reminds me a lot of A Christmas Story. It's kind of episodic. There's little segments of their lives that you kind of play out with. There's a narrator. It's very heartfelt. It's very much like it creates that nostalgia, and you kind of realize like, oh, I can connect to this in a lot of different ways. And so that was kind of my connection to it. So reminds me a lot of A Christmas Story, which is a huge part of my childhood. Right. So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and there's something about movies from the 50s or the 60s, right, that just like lock that in. Right. But I don't know. Like I imagine it was the same for you guys. Like we're kids of the 80s, and I mean, you get a wiffle ball and a wiffle ball bat, even if it's not like a real baseball. I mean, heck, I gotta tell you too. Like we were in Kansas City with our friends, and like they've got 5 kids. I've got 3 daughters. My buddy Andy and I like got a wiffle ball, got a bat, went across the street to the park, and like had a fantastic pickup game of baseball. Like there's some sort of magic about a spring/summer night and a baseball, right? Yeah. It's something that really does it, and like. I think in our games, it's funny that my daughter came in and said, the one line she remembers is "you throw like a girl." In the game we had, there were 6 girls and 2 boys, and then me and my buddy Andy, and like it doesn't matter, like baseball, softball. My girls play softball, like gender, whatever. Like anyone gets out there and plays, and it's a sport sort of for storytelling and for. It's awesome.
Dig it. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our shag, snags, and body bags. And as our guest, I'm going to have you start us off, Cliff, if that's all right, and give us a shag.
Real quick before we do that, I just want to add one more little. It was just a quick story that I think kind of relates. Is that, I mean, the fact that baseball it is very American, but it's like today I was looking at the Giants were playing the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the pitcher for the Pirates I saw just on my like ESPN app. It was like R. Hill. I was like, is that really Rich Hill? And I look, and Rich Hill was pitching today, 43 years old. And I was like, I'm a year older than this guy. And I was thinking to myself, I was laughing because I was like, this dude is playing Major League Baseball. I mean, just a game that we all grew up playing. And at 43 years old, he's still playing it professionally. Yeah. And I'm on like a beer league softball team right now. I'm 44. I'm the oldest guy on the team. And I was like, that's hilarious to me. I'm playing beer league softball and I'm the old guy on the team.
You've almost aged out.
I've almost aged out. But yet this dude is a year younger than me and he's playing Major League Baseball at the highest level and is still doing things.
It's pretty comparable, I guess.
It's just I love it that people will try to continue playing baseball or softball or whatever it is as long as they can. And you've got like leagues for like 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds and stuff. It's wild that it continues to just kind of it's something that everybody wants to play, and they're going to find a way to get out
it. And how often do you have to ice yourself after you get done playing?
I'm out there throwing the ball, man. I'm the pitcher. I get out there and I go innings in
that deep backhand, underhand, high ball.
Oh, dude, this is there's a no ceiling. It's a no ceiling. So you can chuck that thing up as high as you want. Oh yeah, I'm trying to send it to the moon every pitch.
I love it.
All right, so Cliffy, you're shagging.
Okay, so I'm going to shag the kindness of clearly the best player, or like when a character is kind to someone who's clearly not as good and they're clearly the alpha. Right. So Benji's kindness to Smalls.
Cliffy.
Benny. I want to say we're probably all snagging Benny. Am I wrong?
I was shagging.
I'm sorry, shagging Benny.
No, I was going to snag Benny. I thought I should we just all do a joint Benny love?
let's do joint Benny love because I am shagging Benny.
That's what that's my shag. Just like I love in movies I love that about those characters when they take someone under their wing. And like, giving him the mitt. I'm just like, I got my mitt right here. Just like, I was like, I can't talk about the Sandlot like that.
There it is. Let's have a catch.
And
you got to punch it a couple times.
So yeah, that's my shit. Plus, dude, that guy is just like, yeah, he's awesome. I mean, he shows with Mighty Ducks too. I love that actor. Now he's like a fireman in LA.
Yeah, that's what Tom Guiry was saying. He's a fireman in LA and busy.
What a stud. Absolute stud.
So I guess I'll switch mine to the shag instead of the snag because I want to say something specific about Benny. He's obviously a stud, but there's two things in particular that stand out about the character and the way it's written. One for me, the lesser of the two is that the narrator tells us that like Benny would play baseball all day, all night, in the rain, in the sun, and like there's that's I think it's played a little bit as a like I don't know, kind of a light comment in some ways, right? Just to like demonstrate why the character's acting the way the character is. But as a foreshadow, right? Like Benny becomes a Major League Baseball player, right? And when you think about what it takes for for a person to get themselves to that level of any kind of thing, right? They have to have that obsessive nature about it when they're young, I think, in many cases. And so watching it again, I caught that line and I was like, okay, like this makes sense. Like I buy it even more that Benny is going to be a pro baseball player because he literally is like, all I care about is that I can rotate all 9 positions. And
he was the only one that wanted to play when it was 100 and whatever degrees, and they all wanted to go to the pool. And he's like,
I could care less about when you peppercorn. Let's play baseball.
So upset when if the ball goes over the fence and it's to the beast, he's just like, I cannot play the rest of the day, and this pisses me off.
Yeah, and even like of a whole summer's worth of days, even a few hours, and Benny's in a bad mood.
But what's interesting about that though is so they're mad. He's mad because he broke the ball, and so they can't play anymore. But then so Smalls runs and gets the Babe Ruth ball, and the first guy that was probably the most excited was Benny, even though Smalls just ruined the game again on the second pitch. He's stoked because he knows how big it is for Smalls.
Exactly.
And he lifts him up and says, who's the big bat now, boys?
It's the only thing that takes second to Benny. So this gets me exactly to where I want to go, because the only thing that takes second to Benny's love of baseball is Benny's like protecting of the vulnerable kid.
Right.
And the thing that I wanted to point out, or sort of on 2 points, is one, my single biggest regret in life is not being that guy more. Like I wish I could, if I could go back and be a junior high, and not even as an adult, right? It's easy as an adult. Right? Because it's like you have your sense of like, sort of principles and they're clear and you don't care as much about people. But you're a junior high kid sticking up to people. It's your whole world. Yeah. It's the point of the movie, right? Like the things that are important feel like they're as important as the world, even though they're not that big a deal. So sticking up to people, and in this case, sticking up to your friends, right? Like it's one thing to stick up to a bully who you don't like and isn't your friend as a jerk, but these are all like who Benny hangs with, and he's willing to be like, no. Like, you guys don't get to tell him no. You guys don't get to make fun of him. Take it easy on him. And it's like, that's the thing that for me makes Benny special.
He forces the situation too, because he's like, I'm going to hit it right into his glove so he catches it. And then he immediately, as soon as he says, look, he's good, right? And all the kids are like, oh yeah, okay, figured it out.
He's okay. Yeah, I knew it all the time.
So that's why I put on my list, on my shag, it just says, Benny's the coolest kid ever. Like, he really is the coolest kid ever. He's just, he's talented. He's athletic. He's a stud. He's definitely like the mature of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also got heart. He's also a kind person. He's also, like we said, looking out for the person who's vulnerable and just wants to have fun, because he wants to have a fun game of baseball. Mm-hmm. And he wants to make sure that that game is played and that it's going to happen. And if that means bringing in the kid who is just learning the game, I'm going to help him learn the game, and it's going to make baseball happen.
Love
so
it. Yeah, so
appreciate that, dude.
I'll keep the Benny train going, but a little bit differently. I'm going to go with older Benny playing for the Dodgers and his stolen base beating the Giants.
I watched that.
It just brings me so much joy.
They're definitely playing the Giants. They're definitely playing the Giants. It's very obvious. It's in Dodger Stadium, and yeah.
Does he really? I mean,
Benny and the Jets.
Does he really steal home like that? I mean, do you really think that's a little realistic steal?
I mean, that's the kind of way it happens.
Benny can.
But Benny is.
Hey, you pickle the beast. You can steal home against the Giants.
Well, they said. I mean, they're like, oh, he's kind of like on the downside of his career, but he still had that speed and that instinct, and he makes it happen.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a suicide lead at third. So love that.
I have thoughts about that whole scene also later.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to snag. Brad, why don't you start us off with this one?
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and snag James Earl Jones and baseball. Because that dude being in two of the most like kind of prolific baseball movies. I mean, it's kind of wild that he's in Field of Dreams and The Sandlot, and both of them are kind of iconic baseball movies.
Yeah,
and in both of them he plays like an old veteran,
kind of similar-ish characters
of the game. And it's just funny that how did he stand out as being the guy that like we need him for like our legit old school baseball players.
So I was just gonna say like maybe two of the top 5 baseball movies, and that made me think like, where's Sandlot fall? Like if you had to go, what is it, top 5? Is it top 10 baseball movies? I mean, clearly
it moved up my list. I will say this: it definitely moved up my list as far.
I say Major League, Field of Dreams, The Natural are all stronger.
I mean, that's
probably
your stuffs. Like, I mean, you're talking crazy.
Yeah,
what?
A couple of those are natural. I've watched it recently, and it's kind of
Major League, and then there's a big drop off to some of the other stuff.
You're dumb. All right, Cliff, what do you think?
What do I think about
how correct I am about where's Sandlot fall baseball movies? Top 5, top 10?
Top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd go Major League, and Field of Dreams and Sandlot are kind of like 2A, 2B for me.
Yeah, I'm with them.
Bull Durham's not on my list.
Bull Durham.
The Natural's not on my list.
Right. There you go.
All right,
I'm going to go. I would probably go Little Big League.
Dude, that's my dude. That's my dude. Yeah, actually, I am a huge fan of Little Big League. I love that movie so much. It's in my top 5.
And I actually love Rookie of the Year too.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Why don't you shut your filthy mouth, Brad? All right. You don't even watch movies, Brad. You've seen like 2 of the movies we've talked about.
That's true. I only know about 3 movies.
Cliff, what are you going to snag from this?
Apparently, my shag snag body bag is Benny heavy because I'm going to snag a pair of PF Flyers straight out of the bottle.
Hell yeah.
I think, I love sort of mythical objects in movies, right? And those shoes coming out of the box and like giving him sort of the superpowers and stuff. And I just think those, a pair of shoes like that are so cool. And so that's what I would snag.
The only thing I can think of is Converse All-Stars. And just the first time I ever tried to play basketball on Converse All-Stars.
You thought they were giving you special powers.
And there's nothing getting this big body off the floor. And I'll tell you what, when I do get off the floor, it really hurts when I land.
Well, let me just tell you, the Converse aren't helping your ankles.
I know.
That's like the first time I got pumps. I was like,
really fast.
Dude, the pumps. I was like, oh, the pumps. I'm dunking with the pumps. No,
it
doesn't.
Heavy.
It actually doesn't make any sense.
No, it's great.
All right, so I'm gonna snag. I was gonna shag this, but I think it is a fair snag. I'm gonna snag a very quotable movie.
Yeah.
So I mean, even if you only took one quote, it is it's in competition. If you were to say like how many times per year in the United States, if you counted the number of movie quotes per movie per person, right? Like how many times is a quote from a given movie uttered by a person? Just Killing Me Smalls probably puts this in like the top 100.
It's up there for sure.
Killing Me Smalls, but then like watching it again, I remember there's a few like when he says forever. I never say forever without saying it that way.
I
anymore.
say it like that all the time.
Forever. I mean, and then Pervin the Dish. It's Pervin the Dish. Classic.
The Great Bambino.
What is Pervin the Dish?
L7 weenie.
L7 weenie.
L7.
Nate, what is Pervin the Dish? You got to go back to this.
Okay, so he's Pervin the Dish as he's like staring at a dish, but in this time would have been a hot chick. She's a dish.
Who says this when?
It's when they show up to the dugout when it's super hot, and I think.
He just
wants
they just saw Wendy Peppercorn in the street.
Saw Wendy Peppercorn, and so then he says Pervin the Dish. Yeah. But anyway, so there's just a lot of great quotes in this movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, Killing Me Smalls. Like I said when we were talking to Tom Guiry, it's so iconic that it's many people who don't even know that it's from this movie say it all the time.
Right.
I mean, it's part of our.
I was never, like I said, really close with this movie, but I knew 100% knew what "Killing Me Smalls" is from, and I was like, I know what it's from, and I know the dude that's saying it, and I know exactly what he looks like, even though I'm not super familiar with the movie. It's iconic,
beautiful.
I'm gonna kind of ride that a little bit too. I love when the catcher is talking shit to the city kids.
Oh my God, that's funny.
And he's behind the dish. He's like, "Hey man, is that your sister out in left field? And I think she'll go out with me." And just totally getting in their heads.
And then the guy gets pissed. He's like, "What? I was just trying to have a conversation.
Just
a professional conversation."
Dude, I love that stuff, and I love that in a lot of baseball movies when you kind of get the banter in between, and like
Tom Berenger is the catcher.
Oh.
Very much, it was kind of leaning on that for sure.
Absolutely, and like even. Like Bull Durham, there's a lot of
that.
Yeah, so I just dig that shit. Okay, everybody snag? I think everybody.
We all snag.
Okay.
Let's body bag.
Let's body bag. Are we gonna body bag anything on this?
I'm excited.
I'm gonna.
I knew Brad.
I've got a couple. I've got something.
All right, Nate. Why don't you start us off with the body bags?
So I'm body bagging. Well, I'll body bag Bill in general. As just like a real shithead.
Dennis Leary, yeah.
I'm co-signing on that.
You mentioned the sort of like toxic masculinity, and even though I'm like, that's
right.
It's a little bit of a reach since he's just kind of a little bit of a dick, not so much just like a misogynist.
Right.
But he's definitely a dick, and more than that, he's a terrible fucking baseball player. Like the guy can't throw.
Nate, we're right here on board with me.
So I want to hear your, but I'll just simply finish with the comment that like he throws the ball to Smalls the first couple of times, and then and it's like not even close,
right?
And then he's like, "Oh, you'll get it, just move your glove." I'm like, "You're 10 feet away, hit the glove, Bo."
My body bag says Dennis Leary trying to big time Smalls on his throwing when he has no form. It's like
terrible.
It's and so Dennis Leary, I've always liked Dennis Leary as a comedian and as an actor and stuff, and he's a big Boston guy, so he talks about the Red Sox and all this. Now I know he's more of a hockey player. He's a Bruins guy, and so he's played a lot of like amateur like games for charity and stuff on hockey. But oh my God, his throwing form, it's pathetic, and it is those type of things bother me in movies. Like I said, I've always said in Bull Durham, what's his name throwing?
Tim Robbins
throwing as a pitcher.
He throws heat.
It takes me out of the game so bad.
He's Tim Lincecum like.
Dennis Leary has better form than Tim Robbins, which is sad, but that doesn't mean it's great by any means. So that is definitely my body bag is Dennis Leary trying to talk shit to Smalls and like acting all disappointed. I was like, bro, you can barely even throw a ball. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. And his reaction to it basically saying, "Hey, well, at least you caught it," when it hits him in the eye. And then he says, "You got to watch out for that curve."
Oh, I hated that too.
I mean, how would you let him go out there with a plastic mitt? Like, who's going to let their kid go?
There's so many problems.
Oh, man.
There's so many problems.
Yeah.
Oh. What are you body bagging, Clever?
I'm gonna body bag like whirly rides at a carnival.
Oh
God, yes,
the worst.
I have a throwing up on a ride at a carnival memory of my own.
Oh,
I do too. I've thrown up in the line.
What's that?
I threw up in the line for a ride after riding a spinny ride.
I'll tell you what I did was throw up on that. I think it was called the zipper.
Oh yeah.
It was the one that goes around. The ride goes around, and then each individual car
It's flipping.
Somersaults.
it's
yeah.
all
So
bad.
I threw up in that ride with my buddy Mike Adams, this poor guy, my best friend. And so not only did I throw up, then the thing starts spinning. So it was like
Just launching it.
Spinning all over the place on us. And so I see the Sandlot, and it's totally triggering for me. And so, yeah, no whirly rides at a carnival.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Mine was the one where it's like you go. It looks like a little UFO, and you go inside, and then you stick to the wall.
Go upside down.
And no, just it spins, and it spins so fast that the wall, the backs of the walls move up, and so you're actually stuck to the wall.
That's what I mean, though. You can go upside down.
This one
You
it doesn't go up
on the wall.
Oh, this one doesn't spin you around upside down. It was just you just stuck to the wall.
You can climb upside down if you want to.
Oh yeah, you
I'm
could.
saying-
You could if you wanted to. Yes, I was
That's what I'm
concentrating on not
saying.
vomiting until I got off the ride and got to the next line, and then I puked everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's a rough scene, and I was watching it with my girlfriend the other night, and she's like, "Okay, just tell me when it's over." She's like, she had her ears plugged so she couldn't hear it, and she's like, and I was like, "Okay, hold on, wait a minute." And, okay,
It's not Problem Child with Macaulay Culkin. I don't know if you know that movie.
Oh,
there's
that's
a
rough.
ride scene where everybody's puking on everybody that's waiting outside.
or Stand By Me, the Barfarama, the pie eating contest.
Oh, that's a pretty bad one too.
Did you just say Problem Child with Macaulay Culkin?
No, it wasn't Macaulay Culkin. Was it? Who was it? It was like
Somebody that's not Macaulay Culkin.
it was not. It was a Macaulay Culkin wannabe. My bad.
Was John Ritter in that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It was.
All right.
Oh yeah, and so body bag. I'm gonna body bag Arliss Howard, the actor who's playing grown-up Scotty. His final call of that steal of the game.
Yeah.
I loved it. What's wrong with it?
It's
Well,
not good.
it doesn't seem like it's a playoff game or anything. Like, is it just a regular season game?
Have you
Yeah, I think
have you
so.
never watched a regular season series between the Dodgers and the Giants?
Yeah, but the way he's reacting, he's like, I don't believe it. He's gonna go. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. No.
And then he like runs away from the microphone for a while and is like yelling about
high
things.
fives the guy behind
He
him.
stole home.
I know.
He stole
but
home.
And it looks like it was
before
was
the
it a walk
pitch is
off? It was a
delivered.
walk off.
It won the game. It walked off.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Dodgers Giants, and he steals home before the pitch is delivered, and it's Benny the Jet, his best friend from childhood.
I'm just saying, be a professional.
Be a professional. Hold it together.
And if you want to be real here for a second, it also means what the fuck happened to, the living legend.
Vin Scully.
I'm not living. I'm sorry. Unliving.
I'm living legend now.
He's on
cameo.
He's on Cameo actually now.
The Vin Scully. It means that Vin Scully doesn't exist. What was Vin Scully doing this night?
He needed a day off.
that might come back later. So
You know what? You know what? Don't ruin this for me, okay? Keep your body bags to yourself.
I
from
just
now
think his
on, all
performance
right?
isn't good. So.
What I like most about that whole scene is that he still has the trout hat. He didn't burn it like Benny said.
That's true.
Yeah.
This is true.
All right,
That's great.
Cliffy. Thanks for coming on to talk Sandlot. Would you do us the honor of coming back next week to judge our voiceover draft?
Yes, I'll be there.
love it.
Yeah. All right.
Got it. I'll be there.
All right. What are we on? What are we going to go to next?
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, Cliff, and we'll talk to you next week. We are going to move
got it.
on to streaming recommendations.
Yep.
Crackle, Pluto, HBO, find anime on Crunchyroll, Peacock, Hulu, Disney, Netflix, Tubi, Sling TV, Shudder, Fubo. What the fuck is Fubo? Sure, it'll cause a sensation. It's a streaming recommendation.
So much nostalgia, so many good memories in this movie. What does that make us want to recommend to people to watch? It might give you a similar feeling. Brad, you got something?
Yeah. I think this is the movie that really kind of like I felt after watching this movie. It's all about a group of boys just trying to like figure out what to do. Like they've just enjoying themselves during the summers and stuff and the off days, and that's the Goonies.
Good call.
Good one.
That's the Goonies. Like, and just a crew that like they talk shit to each other, but they're also kind of they love each other. You know, there's love between them. While they do rib each other a good lot, they still actually do like each other a lot, and they go through some big crazy shit together.
Yeah.
This is on, and I'm still having trouble getting used to it. Max.
Yeah.
How do you get rid? How do you get rid of HBO? Like,
especially since
HBO is such a significant part of people of our generation. Like, it's been a part of our lives,
Right.
And it just means it gives it a little prestige. When you throw that HBO in front of it, it's like this has got some prestige.
When you say Max, what do you think of?
And Cinemax.
100%.
and the Skinemax.
Skinemax.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Skinemax.
This all I can think of is that this is like some dick waving contest between like some executives that like maybe once like Cinemax and HBO kind of came together. It's like this guy's like, no, let's do Max. He's like, no, we're HBO. And he's like, fuck. And like somebody had some pull or something and was able to just make that happen, because HBO is way better product than relating to Cinemax.
And was HBO Max too much to say? I mean, it fit beautifully on the little square icon on my phone.
Yeah.
And I could just rip it right out. HBO Max.
I didn't hate HBO Go.
HBO Max.
HBO Go was fine.
HBO Max.
You know,
I can
all
say
that
it a bunch of times really quickly.
Yeah.
And Max is like, what was Max? Max what? Max.
Who's Max?
MACKS?
Yeah.
Max?
I don't know.
MAC apostrophe S?
Who is Max? Most important.
Yeah, it's trouble. I'm still. I don't know if I'll ever get used to it. And the death of HBO makes me sad.
I body bag that too. I don't know if that was the question, but all right.
Nate, what do
you reinforced my streaming, because even though I didn't think of this in the initial conversation about top baseball movies, Little Big League,
love it
for me is absolutely in this vein. Obviously a totally different, kind of not quite the same level of nostalgia, but it kind of bakes that in because the kid kind of takes that like kid's view of baseball in an important way to the major leagues.
Well, yeah, and there's the one scene where he's starting to kind of lose who he is as a kid, and then he goes to like the little like the city stickball game and like kind of jumps in and starts playing with these kids in like in the middle of like a little like just a little street ball game, and he kind of that's how he brings like his like heart back like where he's like, I'm a kid and this is still about baseball and it's fun and yeah. Absolutely.
So Little Big League is an absolute must watch. Came from a similar era too. It's 94, so I mean it comes out around the same time as The Sandlot, and you can rent that with your hard-earned money on any number of platforms for $3.99.
All right,
just like you're going to Blockbuster, man.
That's right.
So what I love about this Sandlot story is the relationships between these kids, and I think each one of us can definitely relate to certain characters, in the movie, and I was kind of the bigger kid, and so I kind of related to the catcher, to the great Hambino, as they called him.
Hambino.
And so when I think of movies like that, the one movie I kind of thought of was another kind of similar aged kids, and it's a classic film, Stand By Me.
Oh, good one.
And just epic story. Stephen King wrote the original story to it, and obviously a very different movie, but if you like characters, like the interaction of kids at that age, telling stories and being there for each other, very, very, very cool movie, and I absolutely love it. I haven't watched it in a long time, and I caught it a couple years ago, and it stood up. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's one that holds up really well.
And that's on AMC Plus. So.
How long do you think they just make that AMC because the plus is too much?
Or just Plus.
Oh, just Plus.
Plus.
Just Plus.
Yeah.
Tune in on Plus.
Tune in on Less.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so this movie's pretty great, but maybe we have a couple ideas on how to make it a little bit better or a little different.
Maybe.
No jet wash for Maverick, Meg's still on that goose stick. Iceberg list Titanic, Leo's drawing that nude shit. Jim fucks Nadia like we all thought he should. Ricky and Doughboy get the fuck out the hood. Luke hooks up with Leia just like he's intending. It's time for a reshelf and alternate endings.
All right. I'm very curious to see what Brad would do to this. he's got that little grin on his face. He always does. But I'm going to start with Nate because unless you don't have anything.
Well, Nate always has one in his pocket. There's no question.
We can wait on yours if you want.
So I like the movie basically as it is. Okay, but they finally get to the point where they accept that they have to go and knock on the door. Okay, and so they knock on the door. James Earl Jones answers. He's kind of grumpy, but he invites him in. They come in. They're like, you get to that point where you start to be like, oh, he has all this memorabilia. He's really cool. Shuts the door behind him. Eats him. It turns out all along that shit was real.
True. Yeah, but it's not the dog.
It's not the dog. It's James Earl Jones. Sandlot till dawn.
That is the best. I knew you were going to go there, and even knowing that, it was still beautiful. Such a great ending. Mine's a little morbid too. And I just recommended Goonies not too long ago, and the Goonies is about these rich ass developers. They're buying the Goondocks, and they're trying to ruin these kids' lives because they're going to make them all have to move because the developer's going to put in some golf course, some bullshit. In the Sandlot, we're going to have the same thing going on. The Sandlot is getting bought out by some rich ass developers. They're trying to take away the baseball, and Benny's not going to. This is Benny's life we're talking about.
Not going to put up with it.
And you know what? It turns out that some of these developers are getting bludgeoned to death, and they're just dropping like flies.
Okay.
And you're like, well, what's going on? And yeah, these kids just were like, no, fuck this. We're taking this into our own hands. Their parents couldn't help them, and they were just like, yeah, we're just going to go beat some motherfuckers to death. Dude's walking out the grocery store at night, and all of a sudden just getting beat down with a baseball bat, and they run off. There's no cameras back then. They're not getting filmed or recorded. There's no DNA evidence. Come on. These kids are getting away with it. They're just murderers, straight murderers. And then once Benny gets into major leagues, he's sending some of his paycheck to all his little homies back in the day. He's like, you know what? You guys help me. You guys help me keep that Sandlot alive. So
by keeping a lot of other people dead.
That's right.
Wow, two very very dark endings to this beloved classic, this family movie. So mine's not quite as morbid. It's very simple. So at the very end of the game, you hear Smalls, as the older Smalls, make the call, and Benny steals home, and he's all excited. And then all of a sudden, it kind of zooms in on Smalls' eyes, and then the camera zooms back, and you realize he's not actually calling the game. He's just selling peanuts. He's a peanut vendor, just watching.
Oh.
And then it pans over to Vin Scully, who gives a proper fucking call
you had to
the end of the game.
I love that you brought him back. Yes.
And then at the end, you see Smalls, he's got his peanuts, and he throws a thumbs up to Benny, and Benny doesn't give him a thumbs up. He gives a thumbs up to Vin Scully.
Oh, Vin Scully.
Legend.
The unliving legend.
Can I give this thing kind of like a dark turn?
Of course.
Oh no.
Can I steal your ending? Except what you realize is at that moment when he gives the thumbs up to Vin Scully instead, you get this like barrage of like fast forward flashbacks where it turns out what Smalls and what happened in the movie didn't really happen. Benny actually like shit on Smalls.
Oh.
And like he ends up like watching from afar the whole time and like getting made fun of, and like they throw rocks at him and stuff, and he's like this like kind of like becomes this beat down stalker kid.
It turns into the Fan too.
Exactly.
And De Niro and
exactly. And
and Wesley Snipes.
So Smalls is actually like a stalker. He's a peanut guy because he's like still
he's trying to get close
to Benny all these years later.
Shit.
Damn.
See, I told you I could make it dark.
We know how to fuck up a great movie.
Terrible. Yeah. How do y'all like that childhood classic, The Sandlot?
So fun. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please follow us on the socials.
Wait. We gotta give a shout out to our guests. I mean, is this our first time having like
we had two
big
legit
actors?
Two big actors. I was gonna get there. I'm wrapping up the whole show. It's part of the thing.
I don't want to thank the fans yet. What did they do for this?
Just listened. Just drove their car, and
Passively drove.
cleaned their house. and
If you
listened.
enjoyed our two great guests that we had on, then maybe you'd want to share it. But yeah, we definitely want to thank Tom Guiry, Smalls himself, came and joined us. And
Killing me, Scott.
Oh man, Brad's killing me over here. Fucking mouth.
Killing me, Scott.
And of course, Cliff Chamberlain, who is actually going to be joining us next week for our draft, which is most memorable voiceover in a movie.
Morgan Freeman.
Great voiceover in this film, and so we thought that it
Baseball.
was a very, very topical topic, as Zach likes to say. And hopefully he's alive.
Scott, can you thank the fans now? I mean, we have a lot of people out there listening.
For the love of God, could you please bring in our listeners?
Fans, go on to Spotify or iTunes and tell everybody how much Brad sucks a big cock. If somebody writes that review that Brad can eat a big cock on Apple iTunes,
What are you going to send them? Venmo?
then I'll Venmo you $1.
Hey. Wait, what did I have to say specifically?
Brad eats a big cock.
Okay.
There you go.
That's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Pay me $1.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please spread the word. If you like this show, then tell someone and, make us bigger because this is fun.
Make us bigger. That sounds a little erotic.
Yeah, make us bigger.
Rub our
I think it's time to get the hell out of here. Thank you guys so much.
Bye-bye.